Hello there YouTube, it's your Bobby3, back with another kicking action figure review. Today's review is over the Mattel Movie Masters Man of Steel General Zod. This was the first General Zod they released. I believe there were 4. This was the first one, kind of just the skin suit Zod. And then there was also Zod in his armor, which I reviewed years ago, maybe more like a decade ago, actually. This review is a decade late. Sorry about that, but I just got him, so give me a break. Then they released General Zod in the Shackles, which is basically this figure with the shackles from the first act, and he's got a big scar here. And then there was, I believe, a Comic-Con exclusive 2-pack, which basically just had, I believe, this same exact Zod in it. It was more of a display piece, kind of the kind of thing you leave in package. I believe the box itself had lights and sounds, but anyway, we're not reviewing the Comic-Con one. We're reviewing this single-carded guy. I've been wanting him for, as I said, a decade, and I just never got him. And then, before I went on vacation, I was actually, looking at him on eBay, added some good ones to my watch list, you know. And then, on the way back from vacay, I saw him in a comic shop, complete with stand, for $12.99. So I grabbed him. Also, my partner kind of looks like a younger version of Michael Shannon, specifically in this character makeup, the way he trims his beard and hair, so I thought it was really funny. He hates when I compare them. I really like that movie. He does too, but he says I ruin it for him. Anyway, he comes with one accessory, if you can call it that. It's a stand. You can see it's got the big U on it. Back in the day, when I thought there was a plan for the DC movie universe, the DCEU, I think is what they called it back then, I thought he was eventually going to be a version of Ultraman, like a version of Zod from another dimension would be Ultraman from the Crime Syndicate, and the Justice League would fight him. I thought that was so cool, that it was a U, and he might be Ultraman, but then, no. Or maybe he raised Kal-El in an alternate dimension, and that Kal-El grew up with his symbol and became Ultraman. It doesn't matter. It would be cool to have a custom Ultraman General Zod, though. But I really thought that was hinting at him becoming Ultraman, even though I know what happens to him in the movie. But yeah, the thing about this stand is it's got translucent bits, and I actually think this is the stand for the shackled version. I believe the shackled version has the more translucent stand, and his stand's supposed to be opaque. So it's the wrong stand, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, he goes on it just fine. I'm not really going to use it, but it is a nice little stand. They'll look good displayed together, all your Man of Steel figures on these stands. And I'm a huge Superman fan. I actually really like the Man of Steel movie. It also has my favorite film score of all time, if you can believe it. But it's not exactly Superman, but I think it's a really good first contact movie, even if it is too depressing to actually be a Superman. Anyway, the stand works great. Now let's do articulation. You guys probably remember how these are. The Mattels used to be a little up and down on the head, no real wobble, side to side, up and down on the arms, forward and back. You got the bicep swivel, single elbow bend, a rotation on the wrist. These Movie Masters didn't have an ab crunch, but their comic figures did. But they took it out for the Man of Steel Movie Masters, I think because they were so intricately detailed, and they didn't want to charge more or whatever, I don't know. You got a rotation on the waist there, in and out on the leg with those big old Mattel thigh gaps, forward, back. You have a thigh swivel, a knee bend, and up and down on the feet. By modern standards, this is actually pretty terrible articulation for an adult collectible figure, but to be completely honest, when this figure was new, it wasn't great either. They had already done DC figures with more articulation. Like, I have a Toy Man that has an ab crunch, double joints on the elbows, and double joints on the knees. They cut themselves into oblivion, and McFarlane took over. Speaking of McFarlane, let's get into size comparisons. Before I show him with McFarlane, which is kind of the current company doing stuff, we gotta show him with other Mattels. Here he is with the Movie Masters Man of Steel Superman. And I actually love this. Superman is one of my favorite Superman figures in my collection. I just think it looks beautiful, even if the articulation is meh. I think it looks really nice. And it reminds me of when that film came out, and I was very happy. But yeah, he seems to scale perfectly with Superman here. And to show him with another Mattel, here he is with the DC Universe Classics tier. This guy is actually a Superboy villain, like a Clark Kent Superboy. So he's pretty obscure, but I still really like this figure. Yeah, so the Mattel's comic figures were bigger than their Movie Masters. Their Movie Masters were smaller in scale, so they don't scale well with the comic figures. But he scales well with his own line, and that's really all that matters. Would have been nice if they scaled with Mattel's other stuff, though. Now let's show him with a DC Collectibles figure. This is the only non-Superman family character, just because this is the one I have laying around right now. It is the DC Direct, DC Collectibles, DC Essentials. I know, it was really a mess towards the end there. And technically it's also the McFarlane, because this is the re-released, Deceased Unkillable's Red Hood, who's really much too big. That does not really work at all. I would love it if McFarlane, and I mean this, revisited Man of Steel, because they did Justice League, you know, for Zack Snyder's cut, and they did a bunch of the newer movies. I would really like them to go back and do Man of Steel. I would love updated versions of these. I really, truly would. But I still really like these, and I'd probably keep them. These days I'm kind of selling stuff after I upgrade figures, but I'd probably keep these guys. But yeah, he's too small for this DC Direct here. This guy here. But now let's show him with the McFarlane. Here's the McFarlane Collector's Edition. Superman from Action Comics #1. That's that OG look. And OG, he towers over this General Zod. This could be like General Zod's son. General Zod does have a son in the comics, who's pretty prominent when Zod is around these days. At least as far as I've read in the Rebirth. I've read all Rebirth, but as far as I've read in the Bendis stuff, which is a couple volumes. Yeah, so really the only thing that's going to scale with him are the other Man of Steel Movie Masters, but technically that's all that needs to scale with him. And, you know, since McFarlane is kind of the name in the moderately priced, for now, not even really anymore, DC figures, let's move these and show just two more McFarlanes. And what I like to think are pretty relevant ones. Here he is with the DC Rebirth General Zod from McFarlane Toys. Now, this is another one I picked up on vacay. Got him at a bookstore on clearance, Books A Million specifically. So this is really cool, just to show him with kind of a modern comics General Zod, who is way bigger than him. But you know, there are General Zod options in this scale that are relatively recent and pretty affordable. Got them for $20. And then also the Flash movie Supergirl, since, you know, that's kind of in the same universe. Not really, because it's Flashpoint stuff. I didn't see the movie, admittedly. I just like to collect Kryptonians, and I think she has a really cool character design. And I think all the Kryptonians do in these DC movies. But yeah, she's much too big for him as well. It's just not going to work. But I just want to show him with a couple more McFarlanes. So, now, what are my final thoughts on the Mattel... there we go. Mattel DC Movie Masters Man of Steel General Zod in his skin suit. Well, I think my lighting's a little harsh for one. But I also... but... it's a figure that I like. I think standing on the shelf, he looks cool. Even if his detail and stuff isn't really... I mean, it's good for Mattel. Some of the McFarlane stuff looks better, some of it doesn't, admittedly. His articulation was kind of antiquated for when he came out, admittedly. But I still loved these figures. I think it's mostly because I liked the movie so much. I know it has its problems. I know it's not super faithful to Superman's lore or metaphor or anything, but I still think it's an enjoyable first contact movie. I'm sorry. And I had a lot of fun with these figures back in the day. He's kind of nostalgic for me in a way. I can admit that he doesn't hold up And even that he maybe wasn't that great when he came out, at least articulation-wise, detail-wise, I think he's fine. Paint-wise too, you know, because it has like the glossier black over the matte black. You see, you know, a little gold here on his ding-dong. I think he's fun. If you have kids that like the movie Man of Steel, this would be a fun pickup for them. On the aftermarket, they're really not very expensive at all, to be honest. At least this one isn't. But that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And oh, you better does it. That's it. Thank you all once again. I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.